Can seize the moment and give all you can in some unlikely places, as we find out in our next story from Taiwan, which is all about a resolute researcher of microscopic fungus found in the soil around the roots of plants and trees. You might wonder why moldy earth would interest anyone. It turns out that fungus can aid the growth of plants, help them adapt to salty or dry conditions, and even make them more resistant to floods. The scientist who looks for useful fungi at Taiwan's Endemic Species Research Institute is Lin Zichao. The mycologist roots around underneath plants in Taiwan's mountains looking for samples, which he then takes back to the laboratory to sift and separate before studying the tiny organisms in the soil under the microscope. The results of his research could be of great interest to farmers, but it's painstaking work. In the latest of our series of features on the wonderful plant and animal life in Taiwan's mountains, we follow Lin Zichao on a day of work with fungus. Faced with a huge variety of flora in Taiwan, some experts choose to study trees and others opt for flowers. But at the Conservation Education Center, researcher Lin Zichao decided to specialize in microscopic fungus found underground.
I fix an area for study where the samples are collected. Then I choose a type of plant, and around its roots I take samples of the soil.
Looking at mold in a different way to most people, Lin Zichao focuses on fungus found around plant roots because it helps them grow.
I jot down the area where the sample was collected, what the surroundings were like, and after taking it to the lab, I analyze the soil and sift it out.
On his field trips, instead of collecting shrubs and flowers growing above the ground, Lin Zichao has to dig up the soil around the roots of trees in search of his samples.
I separate the fungus spores, soil particles, and plant roots by floating them in water. Before they sink, I tip it out.
Sifting the earth with a variety of laboratory equipment, the sample is repeatedly washed and separated. After going through such a complex process, the extracted fungus that researcher Lin Zichao is looking for is invisible to the human eye. But the keen scientist is far from disheartened.
You really look forward to extracting a fungus to see if there will be an unexpected variety inside. If you see a previously undiscovered variety or a rare species, you will feel very excited.
Following one operation after another, the researcher finally peers at his sample through a microscope.
You can take these different fungi and do different tests. If you discover a fungus that can, for example, help plants grow better or survive better in salty or dry conditions, or better survive a flood, then I get a great sense of satisfaction.
Working to make a contribution to society, lone researcher Lin Zichao says the results of his painstaking experiments are often not immediately apparent, and sometimes he cannot help feeling a little isolated. But you can tell by the way he throws himself into his work that Lin Zichao is in his element.